too close for comfort, won't be seen tonight, so we can bring you a very special episode of the Gen X Files. Welcome to Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today the show is all about Miami Vice.
Yeah. Take yourself back to 1984.
I'm there.
August 11th. The president, Ronald Reagan, says something a little odd. And I quote,
"My fellow Americans, I am pleased to tell you that I've signed legislation that will outlaw Russia forever. Well, we begin bombing in 5 minutes."
And literally almost caused World War III.
Yeah, hot mics, man. You got to really make sure your mic is
He's an
off.
actor. You think he would know that, but okay. Just 5 days later, John DeLorean of the infamous DeLorean time machine.
From our last episode
From our
about
last
Back to
episode,
the
yeah,
Future.
callback. He was acquitted of 8 charges of possessing and distributing cocaine.
That poor son of a bee, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's very sad because he's a fascinating person, and the car should have been a lot more popular than it was. And
it was a good car. It could literally time travel.
And fly. I mean,
fly.
like, just by garbage. You put garbage into it.
I mean, just think if we had flying, time-traveling garbage cars, everything would be, well, probably chaotic. But
there'd be a lot of crashed flying garbage cars.
but come on, man. Go wing doors.
But, you know, apparently possession of cocaine is more important. Anyway, after...
Speaking of cocaine.
On Sunday, September 16th, Miami Vice premiered on NBC as a 2-hour feature film.
I remember that.
Changed the world.
It changed my world. At that time in my life, I wasn't popular or fit.
Not like now?
Now, yes, I'm super fit and popular. No, I mean, it was a bad time for me. I was a little chub, didn't have a lot of friends. But my best pal and I, every Friday night, would grab a 20-piece McNugget and a quarter pounder with cheese, and we'd sit and we'd watch Miami Vice, me and Phil.
So you weren't really trying to fix the whole chub part?
Nope, I was leaning into it.
I apologize to everyone that we had to play Phil Collins again,
Yeah,
but
what is with us, Phil Collins, man? Every week it's Phil Collins.
that scene in the pilot is one of the greatest montage sequences ever.
100%.
100%.
Yes. Okay,
Gives me chills every time.
Yeah, it's such a good scene. And I remember, that scene in the pilot when we were watching it for the first time is like, wow, this is so cinematic. This is like it was like watching a movie.
Watch a movie every week. Yeah.
And, he had that little hog leg shotty and, popping them shotgun
Weird
shells
pistols
in
and
there.
Dillingers.
Man,
and,
yeah.
I mean, so many, yeah.
I was going to say Philip Seymour Hoffman.
That would be a very
Wrong
different
actor.
show. Very
It would have
different
been, because I think he would have been.
He would have been great.
10 or 11 at the time.
So nobody really knows how the show started. Brandon Tartikoff claims that he sat down and he wrote down MTV Cops. Anthony Yerkovich claims he came up with the show upon learning about asset forfeiture and cops using these things for official use.
Oh, yeah, man. Cops can take anything.
Yeah,
And they don't
yeah.
even have to convict you.
No, it's all part of the indictment. They can just literally steal anything you own.
And back then, they were taking everything because, especially in Miami, which was built on cocaine.
Oh, yeah.
They were taking boats, they were taking mansions, they were taking cars, they were taking jewelry, everything.
Yeah, it was everything. Regardless, Yerkovich wrote a 2-hour pilot called Gold Coast, which became the first episode of Miami Vice.
I'm glad that they changed the name. Right. Gold Coast just sounds like a really crappy, resort that you'd go to in, Temecula.
Yeah, it would be like a weird amusement park.
I'm going to go to Gold Coast. And, I'm going to go see Sham Shimbles and the Big Bangs over at Gold Coast.
He's really good. I like Sham Shimbles.
Sham Shimbles is awesome.
He was good. He was not featured on Miami Vice.
Unfortunately.
Yerkovich was drawn to Miami, which he referred to as a, quote, modern-day Casablanca, but with an even deeper undercurrent of cynicism and futility, because Coke was huge at the time.
Miami was built on Coke. You look at the skyline in Miami.
Yeah.
All built on cocaine.
Yeah.
All of them.
Cocaine Cowboys. If you ever have a chance, watch the documentaries. They're really good.
Oh, yeah. It's like the real Miami Vice.
Oh, yeah. It was good stuff. The show was heavily influenced by the emerging new wave scene to make Brandon Tartikoff happy with his MTV Cops. They featured a lot of music. Like you said, they made it a lot more cinematic. Michael Mann was a film guy, not a TV guy. And
Michael Mann.
Yeah, such a great director.
Around that time, he made Manhunter, which was based on Red Dragon.
The Thomas Harris novel.
Yeah. And Brian
featured,
Cox played Hannibal
Hannibal
Lecter.
Lecter for the
He was
first time.
amazing.
Yeah, great movie. In fact, he was very dark and gritty, and he was very
Pushed the boundaries
Yeah.
of what movies were, and had such such a unique visual style that totally came across in Miami Vice.
Michael Mann. He had such tight control over the look and feel of the show. He refused to let any earth tones in. He wanted to use the Art Deco history of Miami to kind of shape the show. So they used a lot of pastels.
Oh yeah,
And
there were no reds,
Yeah.
no browns.
everything was very bright and colorful and would catch your eye.
He would obsess over different backgrounds. There was no color of a wall that wasn't debated upon
Yeah,
or
yeah.
figured out. It was all extremely meticulously put together. It's funny watching a couple of making of documentaries. They kept saying the same thing. Well, the cinematography, that was a third character. The costuming, that was kind of a third character. The music we had on I don't know why they're all from Canada. The music we had there, that was a third character.
Miami was a third character. Did you know
Yes,
that?
they had so many third characters.
But it all came together, and it was great. They needed to do some casting. I believe that Michael Mann originally wanted Don Johnson, but
Wait, they had to do some casting?
yeah, they had to do the casting for the show.
Did they? Who?
Do you know how Hollywood works?
No, I don't.
Okay, so after you have a concept, you have to hire actors.
Now, so you take a fishing pole, right?
Yes.
And you cast out the line, and whomever you hook and pull in, that's who you give the part to? Is that how it works?
Funny, that's not far off from how it actually works.
Well, it's who you know.
So they tried to get Don Johnson in, but Don Johnson already had a bunch of failed pilots, and they were not
Yeah, he was
thrilled about it.
He was like 34.
Yeah,
He had
he-
already failed a bunch. They weren't looking for any sort of Don.
He was actually very cynical about Hollywood, which fit really well into
yeah.
the character that he eventually played.
They had some big names they were going after.
Yes, like Nick Nolte and Jeff Bridges and Mickey Rourke.
Oh, Jeff Bridges would have been really interesting. Mickey Rourke would have been awful. Well, you know what? Mickey Rourke was actually pretty good back then.
Back then he
Back
was,
then
before he
good.
got crazy.
Pope of Greenwich Village is a great movie.
Yeah, Mickey Rourke, he would have been fine. But yeah, any of them would have been fine. But Don Johnson, by far, was the best.
Well, he's the one who got it.
Yes, that is true. He won the part, as evidenced by the fact that he was on the show for 5 seasons. So the show was shot entirely in South Florida. They originally were talking about shooting it in L.A. and then just using parts of L.A. as Miami. And Michael Mann said, no, we need to do this. Then they were talking about shooting the interiors in L.A., and Michael Mann was like, why would we do that when literally everything else is already in South Florida? So they did that. Michael Mann's a very smart man. The weird thing about it is that where they were shooting, the area was so run down, and they had a hard time finding extras.
Well, it was
because,
really poverty-stricken
yeah,
area.
it was a very broke
The
area.
cocaine renaissance hadn't hit that part yet.
No, it had not. But they would use old people in the first couple seasons as just local elderly people as extras, and
Didn't the show kind of revitalize the area?
it did actually. In fact, Miami really pushed Miami Vice, although they didn't want to do the show at first because they were afraid that it was going to make people think Miami was bad, like
They were gonna give
full
them-
of cocaine, and which it was. So I mean,
It wasn't a big secret back then.
no. So
Right, there's cocaine in Miami?
But Miami was smart. The politicians were smart, and they took advantage of it, and it totally revitalized the area. The show was a huge hit when it first started. It actually got nominated for 15 Emmys in the first season.
Unprecedented.
15 Emmys. That's insane.
We see all the HBO, Netflix stuff get all these Emmys, but that was, I think, the first show to garner that many
Yes,
Emmys.
yes. So the show had a huge impact on fashion and cars and everything. I mean, the show was huge.
It's really funny when the show started out, Don Johnson thought that his character should be wearing jeans and cowboy boots and V-neck sweaters, and then he got to Miami and realized that it's hell with humidity, and he's like, I'm
110
going to go
degrees,
with these
White linen pants.
linen pants. Sounds good.
They went to Italy and got a whole bunch of Italian men's fashions and brought them back. So a lot of Armani jackets and
Yeah, and I think you were saying John Johnson's character, Sonny Crockett.
Sonny Crockett.
He was a beach bum. The way the costume designer put it, she said he wanted to wear the least amount of clothes. No belts, no socks. She would throw his T-shirts in a pile so they looked like they were,
They were rumpled and crumpled because he did not take care of it. He didn't care. He just wanted to wear the least amount he could because he was a beach bum.
Yeah, and then conversely, Rico
Tubbs.
Who was Ricardo Rico Tubbs, who was from New York. You know, he had the flashy $5,000 suits and, you know, the tie. He looked, he was more chess king. If you guys are from the 80s.
Philip Michael Thomas fit very well because that literally was him. Like he walked in wearing like a fancy suit for his audition.
Yes,
and
that's
was
what,
like,
yeah.
hey, this is literally me.
Yeah, one of the things that Michael Mann said was like, man, he was looking sharp. And
Yeah.
that, you know, he came in, dress for the part you want, babies. Dress
Exactly.
for the part you want.
Exactly. Another little Hollywood insider tip.
Yes, we're gonna make you all famous in Hollywood. Okay, I'm gonna confess something to you, and to everybody listening. I had a white linen suit, and a salmon sleeveless T-shirt, and a teal sleeveless T-shirt to go with it. Rolled the sleeves up. My God, I looked horrifying. So espadrilles, I had the whole 9 yards.
Wow.
Man, there are a bunch of little douchies like me. That was the grossest part about this. Is all little douchers like me running around, little chubs with your little
15-year-olds.
costumes on, trying to look like.
You look so cool.
Oh man! And another thing too, the stubble. We haven't talked about the stubble, man.
Yeah,
The,
that was because he was the beach bum.
Yeah.
It became a hot thing
Oh
to
my God!
have stubble.
They sold these razors, these stubble razors that were like just crappy razors with chunks taken out of it. That you basically, you know, you just kind of you.
It wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, it just gave you stubble. It was a
It's the
great
greatest.
racket. Oh my God.
It's like selling canned air. There's
Yes.
just no reason for it.
Exactly.
But it sold, and it sold really well. There was actually a lot. Macy's had a whole Miami Vice line.
Everybody
It was
did.
huge.
It was
just a
I mean,
huge
look,
deal.
I wasn't the only one who was caught up in the madness. But I remember going to a party and just like people were like, "Oh my God,
45 salmon-colored T-shirts.
we need to get this guy out of here." Who invited this turd?
At the beginning of the third season, Michael Mann had left to do another TV show, and he left it in charge of Dick Wolf, who created Law and Order eventually.
Bum bum.
Yeah. So the show got a little more serious, a little more gritty. He really liked doing that rip from the headlines thing.
Yeah, well, this was kind of a precursor to his Law and Order
Yeah.
series. He was kind of moving in that direction, which wasn't the best direction for Miami Vice.
Yeah, it didn't quite work for Miami Vice. The show needed to be a little more fun than that. The show got a little darker in the third season, a little more real and gritty.
Oh yeah, and to make it super gritty, they had to replace Gregory Sierra, the wonderful actor who just sadly passed away in January,
last
January 4th, I think. Amazing guy. I think he was on Electric Company. He was on Barney Miller.
He was
a hell of
great.
an actor, yeah.
I had no issue with him in the show. I don't know.
Lou with his big old cigars. But he was replaced, I guess, he was replaced by possibly the most serious character ever on any film or television, Marty Castillo, played by Edward James Olmos.
Yeah.
He was just basically like this the entire time. He carried a samurai sword. He had the craziest, weirdest, most mysterious past. Like, I guess he was like some sort of samurai back in Vietnam or something. And yeah, I don't know, he had such great, like, little Castillo backstories. Like, he was such an awesome, mysterious character, but he was so serious.
The show in 1988, during the third season, got picked up for syndication on the USA Network. So the show became even more popular, which is why a lot of bands really wanted to get on the show. They knew that if they made it on the show, they had something featured on the show, that it would boost sales, to the point where local newspapers would actually put on the Friday edition what songs were going to be on the show that night.
Really?
So people would know and be able to follow the artists that were featured in the show, which is crazy because I don't think anybody does that at all anymore.
Well, no, but it was a completely new thing. I mean, I remember they utilized music so well on that show.
Yes.
And any song that was used to such effect would, the next day, chart topper.
Yeah, it definitely boosted sales by a lot for all these bands. And some of the bands and the musical artists actually came and guest starred on the show, such as Phil Collins, Miles Davis, Power Station, Glenn Frey, and the famous Smuggler's Blues. Suicidal Tendencies, Willie Nelson, Ted Nugent, Frank Zappa, The Fat Boys. That was a great episode. Sheena Easton, Gloria Estefan. The show literally featured every single actor ever that was acting during the 80s.
Let me throw some names at you. Lawrence Fishburne, Viggo Mortensen, Dennis Farina, Stanley Tucci, Jimmy Smits, Bruce McGill, David Strathairn, Bing Rames, Liam Neeson, Lou Diamond Phillips, Bruce Willis in one of his first network things, Ed O'Neill, Julia Roberts, Michael Madsen, Ian McShane, Bill Paxton, Luis Guzman, Kira Sedgwick, Isai Morales, Terry O'Quinn, Joaquin de la Mina, Wesley Snipes, John Turturro, Melanie Griffith, and Annie Golden, who I don't know who she is. They also had a ton of comedians, John Leguizamo, who played Calderon's nephew. He was one of the Calderons. David Raish, Ben Stiller, Chris Rock, Tommy Chong, Richard Belzer, who would also play a cop for the rest of his life as Detective Munch.
Yes.
And Mr. Penn Jillette, just to name a few.
Yeah, along with non-actors too, like Lee Iacocca and G. Gordon Liddy. Like,
Yes.
It was literally everybody wanted to be on the show.
It was a cultural phenomena.
It was insane.
It was a television cultural phenomena, unlike many. I mean, there's shows like MASH and All in the Family. Those are shows that kind of changed the way we think. This was just a show of fun, drugs, violence,
It was escapist fantasy. It was so good. It was so... And the acting was so good. Like, it was written so well. I mean, it's part of the reason that everybody wanted to be a part, because it was written so well. The characters were so meaty. This was stuff that you saw in movies. It's not something that you did in 7 days on a TV production schedule. No. But they pulled it off. Yeah. They managed to do it. Part of the issue, the reason the show started declining, was because in the third season, they did change the time slot from 10 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Friday and put it right up against Dallas.
Dallas was a juggernaut, if all of you. We're going to have to do a show on
Shocker.
One of the biggest moments in television history was Who Shot J.R.?
That's correct. But unfortunately for Miami Vice...
It was me.
Unfortunately for Miami Vice, it meant less viewers, and a lot of people stopped watching because they would watch both, and they stopped watching because there weren't VCRs and there weren't DVRs and things. You either watched what was on or you didn't. So as the show progressed and got darker, it got really dark.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, I think it probably peaked with, there was an episode that they didn't originally air. It was subsequently aired on
Eventually
USA.
aired, yeah, in syndication.
It was called Too Much Too Late, and it was a child molestation plot, and it was considered too extreme for TV.
I don't know what they were thinking. I mean, I haven't seen the episode, so I can't say if it's good or bad.
I don't remember it. I just know that Friday night.
I don't know if I
pizza.
Be cracking open my chicken nuggets and watching child molestation. I'm just saying, I don't know if I want to see that.
I don't think I do.
Although, unbeknownst to them, they had determined in the fourth season that the fifth season was going to be the last.
Yeah.
They originally wanted it to just be 13 episodes, and they decided to make it 22, and I think that might be part of the reason that they really delved deep into some really weird stories. So at the end of the fifth season, they did a 2-hour series finale in May of 1989, and the show was done. Although it was in syndication on USA for a number of years after that, so it was still pretty ubiquitous. But it definitely did not have the same impact as the first 2 seasons did.
No, I mean, that was a cultural phenomenon. Anything that changes everything, even for a short amount of time, it changed how we listened to music, how we dressed, how we wore our hair, how we wore our beards, that we didn't wear socks anymore.
The fact that if you talk about 80s fashion, the first thing people think of is Miami Vice.
And now, Florida's a joke. Everybody hates Florida. I mean, let's be honest.
What are you talking about?
You got Matt Getz, you got the Florida Man, you got, Miami Vice made Florida look cool.
Yeah, it did.
And I think it was the last thing that ever made Florida look cool.
It really went downhill after that, unfortunately.
It's good for old people because old people get cold. Old people be cold people.
That's right. That's true. Because and then maybe the humidity lubricates their joints better.
Yeah, well, you could tell because everybody on that show had giant pit stains, and I mean, it's the sweatiest show on TV. Watch the show again. My God, it's the sweatiest show on TV. There's a shot in the pilot of Tubbs in a strip joint, and he's literally melting.
So gross.
It's like somebody dumped a bucket of water on his face. Everybody, they raise their arm. It's Pit Stain McGee. They all look like Al Gore at the Democratic convention, with the pit stain down to his pants. I mean, it's...
You have to wonder if they hired somebody, like if there was a special makeup artist that just applied sweat to them.
Raw,
they wanted to be so stinky. I can't even imagine being on that set. It would be so gross.
Oh, man, or be the dabber.
Ugh. I think we
need
need
to
to
sham wow.
add more sweat to his forehead.
They don't need to add anything.
He's not quite sweaty enough.
Just put him in the sun for 5 seconds.
All right, well, we're going to be right back with a interview with filmmaker T. Arthur Cottam.
Ooh. Our very, very special guest today is a great friend of mine, my old producing partner, the award-winning filmmaker T. Arthur Cottam.
Hello.
Hello, T. His latest film, 1 Hour Alcohol, is available on Amazon Prime. You can watch it for free if you got your Prime membership.
It is a really good movie.
Yes, it is.
Oh, thanks, guys. I'm re-releasing Carbuncle, too. I know that I told you that, Jim. Yeah, so another movie that we made together.
Yeah,
Jim
like
and
took
I.
us 5 years. That was our baby.
Yeah, so
Also
I'm re-releasing it with all the commentaries.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Well, one of the reasons why T and I became such good friends and decided to work together was our shared love of Michael Mann and Miami Vice.
Yes.
Okay, interview over.
It's true.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on, you guys. That was a lot of fun.
Okay, there's something I saved. We haven't talked about this at all because I wanted to save this for you. Martin Ferrero, Izzy, Trini.
Yes.
That guy, an amazing actor.
Oh, such a good actor. I didn't realize
Yes.
he played more than one character after having just watched the pilot.
Yeah. Yeah, he started,
yeah.
he started out as Trini, the cross-dressing hitman,
Right.
and then was a completely different character as Izzy.
Right. Yeah. That's right.
Sometimes as an actor, you're just so good that they ask you to come back.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they did that a bunch on Miami Vice. Like the guy who played Calderon, he comes back again for the New York episode, and he's the villain in the New York episode, and he's not Calderon. He's some totally different guy.
He's Daldra Crone.
Right.
You have to wonder with the creators, like, did they think that people just wouldn't notice?
Oh, that they did that on every show. If you watch
I mean, like,
any of
it's
those
like,
shows.
wait, why is Calderon calling himself something else now? This is weird.
He's different because he has a hat this time. That's literally.
He's got a fake mustache.
Literally
it must
what
not
it
be
was.
Calderon.
Wait, who's that guy with the hat? The bad guy, the cartel leader.
They all look like that in New York. I mean, come on.
Right. Okay, so I have a lot to say about Miami Vice, obviously, and I know you do too, Jim. And by the way, I should say that was one thing when the Miami Vice DVD series, when it came out on DVD.
I own it.
Finally, well, you bought it for me for my birthday, the first season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
I will never forget it.
It's the only reason why you still talk to me.
Yeah, so I didn't realize. So I was revisiting episodes, and I didn't realize that the whole Calderon thing, it plays out within the first 5 episood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's like the pilot episode, or not, it wasn't even the pilot episode. It was, it technically wasn't the pilot episode. Now we're going to get into the Miami Vice nerd stuff. But the Miami Vice movie was really, episode 1, and then the pilot was episode 2, and then so like Calderon obviously shows up in the Miami Vice movie, and then in episode 4 is Calderon's return, and then episode 5, Calderon's return part 2, Calderon dies. Spoiler.
Yeah. Hey, man, come on. It's only been 40 years.
Exactly. if you haven't seen the show by now, yeah.
Oh. Calderon!
But Calderon!
Yeah, I will got to be honest, Jim. I've watched my advice a long time ago, but not like this. And the first thing Jim said about it was screaming Calderon. And we rewatched the pilot or the TV movie, and I was so disappointed that no one yelled Calderon. I was so sad.
Do they ever? I don't know if they ever yell Calderon.
No, I don't think they do. It's one of those, what is that, the Mandela effect?
Yes,
Oh my God,
exactly.
we're talking about the Mandela effect again.
Yeah,
Okay.
pops
The
up.
Mandela effect, yeah. Calderon!
Calderon!
I wanted to see Tubbs yell it when the plane flies away.
Now, T and I had we have a huge disagreement about Miami Vice, about one of its most beloved characters.
The alligator?
Elvis the alligator. Elvis.
Right.
Okay, so
Elvis was the mascot for a Florida college. He ate like 100 tabs
was
of
the Gators.
acid. Yeah, he ate like
Florida
100
Gators.
Ate 100,
Right.
ate 100 tabs of acid. I don't know why Don Johnson had 100 tabs of acid evidence on his boat. That seems a little careless, but
He did a lot of stuff like that.
Sometimes
The
you gotta
Crockett character.
do acid.
He didn't play by the rules.
no, play by his own rules.
Let's determine this now. Then, Jim, positives about Elvis the alligator. Go.
He liked LSD. He was a pescatarian. He was a good friend of Sonny Crockett and watched his boat. And he was very nice to Sonny's dates. But he was racist because he didn't like tubs. He was super racist alligator.
So wait, is that a positive?
No, I mean depending on who you are, but to me, no.
No, okay.
Didn't he eat an alarm clock too? Wasn't that one of the
Yes.
things?
Yes.
they did the Captain Hook on him.
You said he's a pescatarian, but then I remembered. Oh right, but he was ticking because he ate an alarm
Yeah,
clock.
well, he didn't eat it. The jerks at the college fed it to him. As a TikTok joke.
Yeah.
He was abused.
Really?
He was abused.
So
Well,
T, then what
you-
was negative about the alligator then?
Well, you could argue that having him on a boat was abuse.
Did he ever did he ever go in the water? Like, was he ever in the water?
I don't know.
I-
He was on a
no.
chain.
So
Yeah,
no.
exactly. He's chained to a boat, and he gets hosed down by Crockett when Crockett's around.
Spent 4 years in the 90s chained to a boat getting hosed down tea. And it was it was very pleasant.
It was a very positive experience for Jim.
Well, the 90s were a different time. This was the 80s.
Oh, okay, yes.
I felt like that was one of the gimmicky elements that they had come up with in the beginning of the show to like add charm to it. And, as the show went on, you realize it didn't need these gimmicky sort of elements to add charm. It was,
Right.
it played better as like a gritty cop show. And so, the Elvis thing, I just thought was kind of silly. And the more they got away from it, the happier I was. It's like, oh, okay, we don't need to come back to some Elvis gag or joke that's not really, all that interesting. So that was I don't hate Elvis. So I don't know that people realize how influential Miami Vice was. And I truly believe that we wouldn't have this golden age of television that we're going through if it wasn't for Miami Vice.
I agree.
Yeah.
It was so unique. The style of it, the way it was shot. I remember, I have a vivid memory of seeing the commercial for it for the first time before the show even started. I think it was a Super Bowl ad, actually.
Yeah.
I remember watching that going, wow, I want to see that movie. And then it said coming to NBC on Friday nights. I was like, what? That's a TV show? People were staying home on Friday nights. I mean, it was a crazy phenomenon. People would stay, if you didn't stay home on Friday night and watch Miami Vice at 10 o'clock, you were kind of an outcast. Like I'll speak for myself. Like you would go into school if you hadn't seen Miami Vice, like it was like, what's wrong with you?
Oh, yeah.
It's too bad we don't really have that anymore. There's just too much content. There's too much things where it's like literally 40% of the country is watching the same thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they had tens of millions of viewers because, there were 3 channels. You don't get that kind of... I don't know. It's you're right. I mean, we talked about how it changed the fashion. I had a crappy linen suit and some espadrilles. I looked like a fool. But and I also had some kind of Tubbsian suits that I got at Chess King. But, it's like if I was shaven at the time, I would have had one of those razors. But, it's like everything like we woke up and everybody had shoulder pads and linen suits and pastels. It was crazy. Yes, right. It totally changed fashion. Watching Miami Vice every week was like watching a mini movie every week.
Yeah.
It had the production value of that. It had the feel of that. The characters were complex. The relationships were complex. It wasn't just a cop shoot 'em up. And it was the first show that I remember seeing where people were actually dying in it.
Yeah.
I
mean, literally, Jimmy Smits in the first 5 minutes.
Well, like every once in a while. We watched that. We rewatched the pilot yesterday, and it's horrifying when when the explosion happens, his little body goes whoosh and like
Gumby's, becomes Gumby and flies away. It's like, oh my god.
gross. And then Sonny Crockett's got a tiny little half-inch scratch above his eye. He's dabbing.
That's right.
You okay, Sonny? I got this. I might be scarred on my pretty face, but give me a cigarette.
Crockett, I want you to go home and rest.
It ain't gonna happen. Give me a cigarette.
I mean, they were spending $1.5 million per episode. Like that's more than a lot of features were back then.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
even now it's a lot, but it's more than a lot of features now.
That's true.
Too.
Yeah. So they dumped a lot of money into it.
Oh, the music too. Yeah. Like I became a fan of Phil Collins because of Miami Vice.
Yeah.
We found the one fan. This is great. I like Phil Collins. I don't have an issue with Phil Collins.
He's fine. He's just a little Cockney weirdo.
He's going to be in every episode.
Like a leprechaun.
Every episode we do, he's going to be featured in some
I know. It just sucks because it seems like we've been playing Phil Collins on every episode we've done.
Oh, really?
That's torture for me.
It literally, I think 90% of the episodes so far we've had a Phil Collins song.
But I mean,
play some Peter Gabriel.
But yeah, I mean, so many like Sheila E. started on Miami Vice, and so many bands were just. Adam was saying earlier that to get on Miami Vice was like a huge thing for a band. Like bands were vying for it, and when they would list the episode, they'd be like featuring songs from Nikki Sixx and Miles Davis.
The little known solo career of Nikki Sixx.
That was the thing too, is that and that added to to feeling like you were watching a movie, because all the contemporary TV shows, they either had, somebody doing the music for it, or they would have like some cheesy cover of a popular song, which they also did in the Miami Vice movie. But after that, clearly they had a budget to get the real music. But yeah, the musical montages and. My mom used to say, like, I was rewatching it, I was watching reruns. It was still in the 80s, I think. Yeah. Because I was still in high school. But my mom would we would start watching the show together, and then she would fall asleep, and she's like, what happened? She was like,
nothing, Mom. They've just been driving around for 45 minutes.
12-minute music montage.
Right. Well, that was the thing that would always lull her to sleep.
5 minutes of Crockett loading his gun.
It was, lights playing on the hood of a car. Like
it's hypnotic.
Relaxing, yeah. And I was like, oh, this is the intense the action's coming, and then it was my mom would be asleep. Right. Yeah. And that was the other thing in 80s shows of that time. Like, I specifically remember, I had friends that were into the A-Team, and I watched the A-Team, occasionally. Sure. And I would be like, there would be an explosion, right?
Yes.
And then they would cut back to show that the characters were still alive.
Yeah, like a helicopter would crash and fiery burn, blah, 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 roll around, and then 6 guys are like, ouch, I think I got a splinter.
Exactly. Exactly. And with Miami Vice, it was like, oh, that person that this whole episode was revolving around is dead? What?
Oh, yeah. In this graphic slow motion. And they...
Right. Right. Well, and the visual style was so different. I mean, you had talked about, us being fans of Michael Mann, and that being one of the things that we bonded over. I mean, that was very much his style, especially in the first season when he was, the most involved in the show. Yeah. And that was, again, with the music and the visuals and the shot selection. And it was just nothing that I had ever seen. And I don't think...
No. Well, that was the coolest part. Is not only are we watching a movie every week, but we're watching a Michael Mann movie every week. Which, I mean, that's a Christmas every day.
Right.
It was amazing. And just so many people got their start. Like Bruce Willis was a wife beater, and
Right.
And it didn't.
I'm not laughing about the wife beating
No,
part.
no,
I'm
no.
laughing about the Bruce Willis part.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's nothing funny about that.
Nothing funny about Bruce Willis anymore. You're absolutely right.
Well played.
And America's Sweetheart.
Ed O'Neill.
No, from yes, American Sweetheart Ed O'Neill. Man, he looked good too. I always loved serious Ed O'Neill.
Yeah.
I know.
You know, as Popeye Doyle or on this show.
He's
Right.
a great actor. Yeah, he's a
Amazing.
great actor.
Yeah.
You're talking about Julia Roberts.
Julia Roberts.
That's right.
yeah.
I totally forgot that she was it. It was some minor part.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was like
I don't even. The fact that you and I are such super fans and we don't remember the part that she
Yeah.
played in it, I think is telling.
John Leguizamo played Calderon's nephew.
Did he play Calderon's nephew?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
and he
it was
comes
not-
back to avenge his uncle's death.
Yeah, by being a super annoying comedian. And it was super effective. It worked.
Never stopping talking.
They were just like, you win, Calderon's nephew. Just shut up. What was your favorite part about Miami Vice, man? If you could pick one thing that just, you know, that you remember the most about. Is there one thing? I mean, it's like all the
Yeah.
pieces put together make it so great. But
Yeah. I don't know that I would say probably my favorite aspect is how they used visuals set to music.
yeah. And did that influence you as a filmmaker, T?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. hmm And I actually get disappointed that there aren't more movies that are made with that kind of sensibility.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Same.
And
Yeah.
yeah. And when I don't, in my own films, when I don't have the opportunity, if the project doesn't lend itself to that kind of style,
Mhm.
I'm always a little bit disappointed.
Right.
You know?
Well, I mean, a lot of the stuff that we made together was very colorful. It was very, you know, especially the short films.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
and
I mean, I think even more so with 1 Hour Out Call. I wasn't really conscious of it when we were making it, but Josh pointed it out afterwards. Josh Ryan, mutual friend, great actor. He
Yes.
pointed it out afterwards. He was like, I sent him a cut of it, and he was like, "Oh, I dig the Miami Vice style," and I was like, "What?"
oh yeah, well, I mean, especially the opening is very Miami Vice.
The opening, yeah, right, with the headlight coming into the camera, and yeah, that was intentional. But I mean, I don't
I would hope so.
I don't know that. Yeah.
I just throw shit up there, whatever
I
happens.
just drove the car at the camera. I don't know what's going on.
Wow, that was a stroke of luck. No.
It's the best way to make films.
Yeah, just-
Just throw everything
No.
at it and hope that it works.
Right. But at the time, I wasn't thinking like, "Oh, this is a cool Miami Vice shot." I just feel
Neither
like
was I, but it was just ingrained, you know. Even the
Exactly.
walking up the steps, the whole opening bit is very. You could put that to doo-dum, doo-dum, ba-boom, ba-doom, boom, boom.
right.
Do your Izzy. Just for me, because nobody's gonna know. But just do your Izzy for me, baby.
Do I do Izzy? I don't know.
You did the best Izzy.
Really?
Yes.
You got your Lee Iacocca, you got your Ronald Reagan, you got your I don't remember what else.
That was perfect.
That was
got your-
great. You got your Ronald Reagan.
And Lee Iacocca was on the show.
Yeah.
That's right, he was
Yeah.
on the show.
G.
yeah.
Gordon Liddy, Lee Iacocca.
It's
The dude from Gene Simmons
Yeah.
was on there. Not Wilt Chamberlain.
LeBron James.
Dr. J.
It was not. It was LeBron James. It was Dr. J.
Bill Russell.
Bill Russell. Yes, thank you.
Oh,
Thanks,
yeah.
Alan.
No worries.
Yeah.
I do research.
From the Boston Celtics.
Okay, so Jim, let's do favorite episode and least favorite episode.
All right. I think, I don't know the name of it, but I always loved the Castillo episodes, when we learned a little bit more about the most serious human being ever to be on planet Earth.
Emmy winner.
Yeah.
Remember, he was the only one that won an Emmy on that
Well, because
show.
it's like he's been constipated for 5 years to have that look and that attitude, just like, and then he'd come out with a samurai sword. The one where he went back forever, that revenge one, where because I think his wife was killed by. There's this whole backstory with him.
It was Golden Triangle.
Yes,
Golden
yes,
Triangle
yes.
part 1 and part 2.
Yes.
It was a 2-parter. Yep.
I think those were my favorites.
Wow, cool.
Least favorite, I think, when Crockett got amnesia. when he got amnesia and thought he was a hitman.
Oh God, that was so good though.
Maybe it is.
That was when they had totally jumped the shark. That was like like season 5.
Yeah. They were running out of stories.
Oh, it was great. It was great. Because it's Crockett being a bad guy. I forgot about that until you just said it. I'm like, no, it's so good.
Oh, maybe I need to watch it again. How about you?
That's so my favorite episode, it's a toss-up between, it's probably Evan. Evan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember the actor's name that plays Evan. He was a bad guy in Ghost.
No, you're thinking of.
Am I thinking of the wrong guy?
You're thinking of Goldwyn.
You're right. I am.
Everybody.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, literally. You were in Miami Vice. Did you not know this?
You were awesome.
Thanks, man. So are you.
Thanks. Yeah, we played a couple of little drug dealers on the corner.
13 years old.
Little 13-year-old super white boys. Hey, y'all want to buy some cocaine?
I'm sorry, it's cocaine.
You want some cocaine?
Oh, amazing. So Evan was the episode where it starts off and you think this guy, oh God, what a scumbag. I can't wait till they bust this guy. And then Crockett's like, we're not going to bust him. He's a cop.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is like how this Evan guy has had a death wish and he keeps taking these risky assignments basically because he was responsible for, I guess, there was the two, Crockett, Evan, and another dude, right. Mike Orgel.
Yeah.
I know his name because I'm such a nerd.
That's good.
So they came up through the academy together, and it turned out that Mike Orgel was gay. And when they found out, Evan freaked out.
Oh, yeah.
He was super homophobic.
The guy killed himself.
And he killed himself, right? And they didn't. He basically stepped in front of a bullet,
Wow.
So he didn't blow his brains out, but he, put himself in a situation where he knew he was going to be killed because he had so much shame about it, and because his best friends were like not accepting of it. It was the opposite.
Super deep for the 80s.
I know, right?
Yeah, that episode is amazing.
Yeah, it's a great episode. So that's probably my favorite, and then Lombard is right in there too. With I'm forgetting everybody's name right now.
Dennis Farina.
Dennis Farina, yes, thank you. Yeah, so Dennis Farina was Lombard.
Little known fact about the Evan episode. That was William Russ, by the way, who played Evan.
William Russ, thank you.
And it was directed by Rob Cohen.
Ooh.
Who did Dragonheart and Triple X and all those feature films.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah, this is one thing we never talk about was the many directors that went on to direct feature films.
This is why Miami Vice takes multiple episodes. We should do.
Well, Paul Michael Glaser directed a bunch of them.
Oh yeah.
Of Starsky and Hutch.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember if he was Starsky or Hutch, but he was.
He was Starsky.
He was Starsky. Okay.
Another great show, man. Okay, least favorite episode.
Oh, right. So for me, least favorite episode has got to be the Alien episode. It was like season 3 or 4 when clearly the show was like going downhill. It was the white Lamborghini days.
Oh yeah. I remember the Alien. There was there.
Oh god, it was very heavily focused on Izzy and Noogie, which you would think would be an awesome episode, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah. I forgot Noogie. Oh, Noogie's awesome.
The Noog Man.
The Noog Man.
And you know that.
Yeah.
That was his catchphrase.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so it was Izzy and Noogie, and there was some like alien. It was basically like an episode of the X-Files, but which is a great show,
Oh
but
yeah.
it doesn't really work in Miami Vice.
No, not at all. No, it's so bad that I don't even remember that episode.
Oh, it's terrible. It was terrible. I was like, I was on the verge of hating the show after that episode, but I'm loyal, so I stuck with it.
Yes.
I just want to read the. This is the description from Miami Vice Wiki about the alien episode. In front of the Grove Harbor Cinema, Vorchak the Repressor, a.k.a. Izzy Moreno, and his quote-unquote space deputy, a.k.a. the Noog Man, are having a sword fight with toy swords, while Trudy and Switek are staking out for a porn dealer. A second man named Akers appears with the porn dealer. He looks at Noogie's outfit and has a panic attack, dropping 24 jars of peanut butter. Tears his shirt off and dives at Izzy and Noogie and goes through a plate glass window into the cine lobby. And that's literally just the cold open.
Is that Mad Libs?
Right.
You have to wonder how they in the writer's room,
I
they
know
were
what I'm
like,
doing
yeah, this is a
today."
good idea.
It makes me want to watch it again. What, Adam?
That
you're
was
so good
season
with looking
4,
this
episode
stuff.
7.
Season 4. Okay, I was like, I remember it as being like season 4 or season 5, but it's probably season 2 because that's how my memory is of those.
Oh no, they were deep into the badness, going into the dark period of Miami Vice.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, I think that the bad period started in season 4, but maybe it was season 2.
No.
I mean, technically, it's still good. I mean, even though it's bad, it's still good. It's still better than most other things.
I mean, just us talking about it makes me want to go back and watch that episode.
Same. Just watch.
That terrible episode.
I would rather watch that episode of Miami Vice over any episode of Dallas or Dynasty or any of that.
Sure.
Yes.
But what about Falcon Crest?
That too. Yes. All of those shows I do not care about.
I agree. There was okay. So here's a fun fact that I remember from the time. This is like I was so shocked at the time that it is burned into my memory. Do you remember? So season 1, they got a bunch of Emmy nominations. It was only
15.
15. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't remember it as being that. I think it was a record at the time.
Yeah,
It was.
And Edward James almost won for Best Actor, and that was it. I think that was the only Emmy that they won. But I remember specifically thinking they were nominated for Best Theme Song. And do you guys remember what won? Without looking it up, do you remember what won?
No.
It can't. I'm going to be so disappointed.
Murder, She Wrote. Does anybody? I mean, clearly you remember that song. I don't remember that song.
Honestly, I just made that up. I don't think that is the song. I knew it was some jaunty, lilty little tune.
It was something. And she was typing. I
she was
typing. The melody does not come to mind at all.
Right, but looking back now, like who remembers that theme song versus the Miami Vice theme song?
Well, nobody, but the voting members were probably all like 80 years old at that point.
I
don't get this Miami Vice.
They just had a huge crush on what's her name?
I don't like these beeps and boops. That's not music.
These beeps and boops. Anybody can do that. You just push buttons.
That's not music, right? I think it was Cagney and Lacey that won for best. It's amazing how much I remember this stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's how influential the show was.
How
for me.
angry you were.
Yeah.
And them lose. They lost to Cagney and Lacey and Murder, She Wrote.
Right. Although I have to say, the Cagney and Lacey thing made me go, oh, maybe I should check out Cagney and Lacey if it's that good. And I never did, but
No, you didn't miss anything.
which is not entirely true. And I had a friend that was on Cagney and Lacey.
Oh wow!
Like that's yeah.
Wow, and you still didn't watch it?
Do you have a favorite guest star besides?
Oh man.
Like I distinctly remember Bruce Willis, and I remember seeing him on there and being like, that guy's got something. Like, because that was before Moonlighting and
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Liam Neeson.
Right, Liam Neeson was on there. Right, he played the IRA guy.
Yeah, scary.
Yeah.
Ian McShane.
Yeah, that was with the Dick Wolf when he took over. and who wanted to do stuff about the troubles in Ireland.
Trying to turn it into
Heavy sigh. Yes. But wasn't Gina like in a relationship with him or something like that?
probably. Gina was all over the place.
Well, I think that was part of like Gina was kind of a sad sack, and I think that was part of that. That was like the main part of that episode was not that there was like this IRA guy. It wasn't that storyline. It was like how Gina you just can't get a decent man in
Gina
the same
can't
way
hold
that
a boyfriend.
right, right. Well, in the same way that Crockett couldn't hold a decent woman, you know. I mean, what?
And they
was
bang in the pilot. I mean, why didn't they just sad sack it together for 5 years?
I know. Well, that's what I was.
He tried, and she said no. She was like, "I can't believe I did that."
Yeah, it was actually a pretty good little part.
It's a good scene. Yeah, it's a really good scene. In the pilot.
Yeah, are you guys talking about when she basically says he's like, "Hey, what's up? Why are you all bummed out? I thought last night was pretty great." These are the exact words. Why? And she's like, "Well, yeah, it was cool until you said your ex-wife's name in your sleep."
Oh, I was sleeping.
Is that what you guys are talking about?
Yeah. Well, he chases her into the ladies' restroom, and
yes,
and then some poor woman comes in and looks like she's like,
I gotta take a dump real bad.
I just need to poo. But they're talking, and
you just hear these fart sounds in the background.
Eventually, you hear screaming from outside. Can I please go poo now?
DEFCON 4! DEFCON 4! The turtle's head is poking!
I have to poop my hand on my period.
Oh, God.
Right.
Man, T, this has been so much fun.
Oh, thank you. This is so much fun.
You are hilarious, and
so are you.
And so talented and handsome.
You too.
I was talking about myself. But
All right.
no, you're the best, man. And when we'll have you back on when Carbuncle is getting ready to come out, and
cool.
And we'll definitely. You're an '80s kid like me, so we're definitely going to find some stuff to have you back for.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love you, buddy.
Awesome. Love you too, man.
It was good to talk to you, T.
Yeah, you too.
You take care. Have a good one.
All right, you too. Thanks, guys.
Bye. That was Crockett's theme by Jan Hammer. Hammer? Jan Hammer.
Jan Hammer, who I'm convinced the large majority of Americans thought was a woman.
Probably, because they're not used to...
And boy, is he not.
No,
He's
he is
definitely
a
not.
bald... Another bald guy. I don't know.
Bald, yeah.
I think I'm a baldest. I apologize to our hirsute lacking listeners.
Good apology.
Anyway, that was fun interview.
That was great. He's so fun. He is so much fun.
Miami Vice, it really was a cultural phenomenon. And it did change. For the worse, for the better, we don't know. But the 80s were definitely different because of it.
It was definitely of its time because they did the movie in 2006 with Colin Farrell and Jamie Foxx.
Right.
And I got to be honest, it didn't really work.
Yeah, they shouldn't have called it Miami Vice. If it was not a Miami Vice movie, it would have been fine.
That's true.
But it didn't capture any of the fun of Miami Vice or the look of Miami Vice or anything to do with Miami Vice except for the name. And
Colin Farrell just scowls through the entire movie.
Yes, exactly. If you haven't seen Miami Vice, I highly recommend you watch it. You can see it on I think it's on the
NBC app.
The NBC app. You can watch
I believe it's for free.
Yeah.
There might be commercials in it, but you can literally watch the entire series for free.
It's totally worth it. It's such a great show. And if you want to see some of your favorite actors when they were just young little babies,
oh yeah,
doing some really great work. It influenced me as a filmmaker, as an actor, as a writer. Just revisiting it was so much fun and makes me. I'm going to watch the whole series again.
Same.
I'm in.
I'd only caught a few episodes here and there, but I'm definitely in to watch the whole thing.
Especially after talking to T and the Spaceman episode, and I forgot about the Nugman. I mean, there's just so many good little tidbits.
So much fun. Well, thanks for listening. We will be back next week.
Cannot encapsulate all that there is to say about Miami Vice in 10 minutes.
No, this is the first part of a 10-part series.
All right, that's acceptable. Let's start with season 1, episode 4.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Family Ties, already in progress.